So it's loading, and I think in 10 more seconds we'll be live on YouTube. Yeah.
একটু আসছে, হ্যাঁ।
So it's loading, and I think in 10 more seconds we'll be live on YouTube. Yeah. So here we are, friends, as we have promised that we will be coming together today evening with Dr. Richard Gasper, and he will be talking to us regarding. He is an experienced academician. He is a principal. He's a secretary of a board. He is also the vice president of all Anglo-Indian schools of India. So here we have him. We are really honored to have Dr. Gasper here with us. And today, as you know, that we'll be discussing about balancing act of education and sports hand in hand. Is it possible? Is it impossible? Or whether there are ways to tackle it. So welcome, Dr. Gasper.
Yeah, thank you, Joydeep, for inviting me to your show, and I'm sure that I would be able to contribute in some aspect.
Yeah, I'm sure about that. And as you are a principal of a school, St. Augustine Day School, Kolkata, and we run an academy, a sports academy, shooting academy, Joydeep Karmakar Shooting Academy in Kolkata as well. So I think we have a few mutual domain where we share as well, where we have a conflict as well. At times we get a lot of students, a lot of parents also complaining that, due to sports, they're not able to concentrate on studies. At times many parents comes to us, in fact, telling us that earlier their wards were inattentive, and after joining sports, they have become more sharper, more intelligent, more smarter in education as well. So what is the secret thing? Like, what is it exactly? What is your experience?
See, my experience is that the main balancing act which is there, or what teaches us to balance, say, academics as well as sports, and that is discipline. Because today, if we are not disciplined in life, we are not able to do anything. Now, there are a lot of cases where I have had students at my school who have been like, they are they're extremely good in sports, and they were not so good in academics. But then slowly and steadily, they became good uh, into academics because of the fact that they had to be very disciplined. So if they had to go for a sporting event, say for example like rowing, so they had to get up early morning, and then they had to do the exercises, and everything was like, all timetable wise things were done. So accordingly, the students knew that they had to get up early in the morning, go for their runs, do the exercises, get onto the oar, and then accordingly they had to come back, and then of course the other portion is also the diet, kind of food they had to take, because all the sporting events that you have for swimming, or whether it's for rowing, they need some kind of supplements which need to be, they need to have to get the energy levels. So this created a lot of discipline in students. And even so, like games like rugby teaches people to get more disciplined, students to get more disciplined, and so that way it benefits a lot. For example, shooting is another very big thing right now in the field of sports, because India is doing so well in this field of sport. It actually helps improve the concentration of students, and I know for sure that we had students, or we also have students who are, working, or they are practicing the shooting at the academy, and they have really improved their concentration skills. More so, even I have got requests for special needs children, parents who want their kids to also get into the habit of shooting as well, because that's going to improve their skills and the patient levels as well. So this is the way I feel that balancing the sports is essential for children these days, because physical fitness is also very important. Building the immune system, because I remember that when we were in school, we were so physically so fit. Like we used to run in the school grounds, and if we compare ourselves with this generation of students, we outbeat them in stamina even till now. If we are playing football, or like there was, as I was saying, few days, I mean, before the lockdown happened, and I think a year back, we had this tournament where we had ex-students and we had present students, and of course the ex-students, they actually won because of stamina. So this is the things what I personally felt is that this is important, that discipline is a key towards the sports portion from my perspective, and not only for sports, even for academics as well. Because when you are disciplined, you will be able to meet these things, and as such, there is nothing, as if a parent says that no, my child is not doing well in studies and doing very well in sports, then in that time I feel there needs to be a balance, or a discipline has to be drawn with that child, so that he knows that this much of it would be, say, I have too much of time which I have to spend for my activities or sports, and so much time I have to devote for the studies. But again, at the same time, if you need to balance both, then in that case, a sports person will always select subjects in his in his schedules of subjects that he has to appear for the exams, which should be much more lighter, much more related to the sporting activities that he's taking up, so in that it can be like correlated. For example, if you have like physical education is one of the subjects that is offered by schools, which could be related to the sports that he is actually doing. Say, for example, if he's doing athletics. So physical education does help him in that aspects. So then you can have other things like sciences, also physical sciences. There are so many other uh, subjects which is related to sports, besides of course the mathematics and English, which is, as you know, most schools find that this should be compulsory. But if you look at like curriculums which are offered in international boards, for example, if IGCSE, they give a lot of options and opportunities for children to select the kind of topics or subjects that they want to work with, or they want to do a major with. So that way, the children can balance their sports where the pressure is not so much. And at the same time, they can focus very well on their sports. At the same time, they can also focus themselves in the field of academics and also score a good percentage of marks as well. Because even if you go higher up for colleges, especially in the US and countries like this, they give a lot of impetus to sports. So if you have these credits that you have in your subjects that you have done for in your A levels or O levels, automatically you get a very good opportunity of joining good colleges and universities, institutes in the US. Similarly, also in China, they have the same thing. And also the other countries in Europe also have a similar kind of thing of sports. So, and in India also, I also understand that they are also giving a lot of impetus where sports is concerned. And now they are also selecting a lot of students based on the sports quota. Maybe they were in the past, but now it's become a little bit more. So
Right.
this
So
is how I.
I think it is a pertinent question which comes up when you mention about the education system in India. It definitely differs a lot from the European countries or US or, um, for that matter, China. But what do you think about the education system here? That I'm sure that it has changed. It has evolved through time, but still, the boards, like the state boards, the CBSE, the ICSE or IGCSE, uh, what are the difference and what are the where are the emphasis of sports? Where is the place of sports in those boards?
See, it's a nice question because yes, there is scope because, for example, like in the ICSE board and even CBSE board and IGCSE, they have a provision for physical education, and even the ICSE also have a provision for yoga. So these are things from which students actually they are getting an opportunity for studying the subject of sports, because mind you, when they're doing physical education, they are also doing a lot of theory, so that will benefit them in learning more about the sports. So, and for example, if you're taking, say, in ICSE, you have to take up two of the sporting subjects. For example, if you have like swimming is one and you opt for like badminton, then you need to know about these discipline of sports to the T, especially the theory part. And then in certain cases, you also need to also do them on a practical basis, the exercises and all what needs to go with it. Because a lot of schools are not fortunate enough to have swimming pools, or maybe they have a badminton court. So it depends on the schools and what infrastructure they have. Their schools can adopt these kind of sports, of two sports, which they can provide to the students. So there is this opportunity which is being given by boards these days. And as you know that you have Khelo India also, which is there, and schools are having like national games is already been encouraged in schools, especially in
Right.
the boards right throughout, whether it's the state boards or even CBSE. So they all come to a platform related to their discipline of sports, and then finally the opportunities are there where children are selected for Khelo India. So yes, I would say that India is doing. There has been a remarkable improvement from India's perspective in developing sports in the country, and this is how they've started it with the at the sport at the school levels, and I'm sure that they will take it forward from there.
I have one question here. Like, I was curious about it always. That not many schools have, a very good sports infrastructure, and of course, like apart from the academics, there's a lot of finances which is required for the setting up any sports facility in the school. Though a few are mandatory, but then what about other infrastructure if the school wants? Is there any funding for the schools coming from the boards or some authority or maybe the ministry?
See that till now, most of the fundings that come in, especially if it's for the infrastructural purpose, these are all private schools. So if it's a private school, so you have to fund it yourself, and we are not sure about the government giving any kind of sponsorships toward it for the time being, or maybe there may be a scheme, or there may be some kind of a way forward which we are yet to know about, or maybe the government has not yet approached us with that. But perhaps if like schools start producing maybe world champions, or kind of Olympians and medal winners, then I'm sure that the government would look at it in a very in a good way, in a practical way, and maybe we would get some funds from the sports ministry. So there is a
But
possibility.
this is a paradox, definitely a paradox, because
Yes,
how can you
yes,
don't
yes,
have any infrastructure and get athletes who can be Olympians? It's the hen and the egg situation.
yes,
Like,
yes,
you
yes,
understand. So I think the problem, as you mentioned, like about the US or the developed countries, they have
yes.
a grassroots level training system from the schools, from the colleges,
Hmm.
which we lack. But nowadays, definitely, you mentioned about Khelo India. I think it's doing wonderful because the grassroots
Yes,
level
yes.
athletes are getting much benefited from these kind of programs, and the sports ministry taking it
Hmm.
very seriously. I know people, kids who are getting a lot of funding at this age, maybe a tender age of maybe 10 or 12 or 14. They're getting a lot of
Hmm.
funds to pursue their sports. And of course, the Khelo India is actually the channel of Khelo India actually starts from the basic elementary schools, and I
Yes.
think that is a huge boost for uh, this mix of education and sports, which has started from the grassroots level for Khelo India. I think a very welcome move. Uh, we can go to the next level of the discussion actually, where we can talk about the few issues faced by the parents. We have a lot of students in sports. You have a lot of students in education, and you face a lot of issues from the parents who are at times confused, who are at times unaware, uh, or at times wrongly aware about education and sports running together. So, what can you suggest on that?
See, to be very honest, these days things have improved a lot where it concerns the parents, because earlier it used to be a very different ball game altogether, but these days parents realize the importance of sports. And in fact, they being sports people themselves, or they've been during their school days, so they are giving more emphasis to schools, that why is that my child is not giving the opportunity for sports and games, because there are a lot of schools that don't have a grounds, right? And especially in central Calcutta and even around Bengal, or even thing, they have just buildings, and that's what it is. Very few schools have actually playgrounds of their own. So the parents are very concerned about this, because they feel that physical fitness and health is a very important thing. Because see, those parents come from basically our generation, where we've been very sporty types, and we've been, even if we did not have playgrounds, we've been forced to the field and we had to go and play, and that's how it is. So when we got that show taste of the ground, so these parents also want their kids to get onto the field. But then sadly, what's the situation these days is that the children don't want to go to the field, because they prefer
Playing with
playing
the
the
mobile,
FIFA.
maybe.
Yes, FIFA in PlayStation 4, rather than going and actually playing the game out live there in the field. So this has become a big challenge for the parents as well as for us, where we are you know pushing children to at least you go and play sports, and the parents who actually make this honest efforts, these are the where I find that those children also are like taking sports seriously, and they take it up. Another area is that when schools give opportunities for children for sports, like for example in our school, for example, we provide these at a very lower level, from uh, the fourth graders and the fifth graders. We have a football tournament that we organize every year, and this by which we are nurturing talents, and we our children who are good in football are selected and they picked, and accordingly they are groomed. And that's how the sports and football has generated for the last 8 or maybe 8 years, ever since we had this tournament. So parents are also aware that yeah, there is a tournament like this, and they're also a part and parcel of it, because they come and watch, and also they come and encourage their children on the fields, and so that's how it has motivated the parents also, that they have felt that yes, sports is very important, especially football. So what I actually personally feel, that if it is encouraged by the schools or the school management at a lower level, because that's the area where you need to catch them young. So if,
Absolutely.
like, for example, football or shooting or your hockey, all these sporting events is, given an opportunity at the lower levels, because that's where the pressure is not there that much on children.
Very
It
true.
can actually, build up to the middle school levels of 6, 7, and 8, and then after the students can take it up for the 9, 10s, and the 11s and 12s. So it all depends on the schools. If the school managements are very interested, focused towards sports and developing sports in their school, everything is possible. They are the ones who can generate this love and this the love for sports. At the same time, they can encourage the parents to also support them, and that's where you get a lot of support, where children are for sports, and they can be motivated and they can take it up as a career. So these days it is not so much of a challenge, where during the days when we were there, in school. So now it has become like, it depends from the management to management. Suppose if a school is more focused only academic, there are quite a few schools. In these circumstances, those children become more bookworms. They are not so much focused on sports. For them, the only sports would be, watching maybe IPL or, football or, these kind of sports. So, because that's what their parents are actually watching it at home. So, as I would say, it's the challenging situation of sports these days. It varies from school to school, and it depends on the objectives of the school management as to how they foresee their school, whether they would like to develop their school into a all-rounder school where grooming the children in all directions, or maybe they are just focusing on academics. So this is what, for example, again I say, if say schools in the hills, these schools are very much into sports, and they give a lot of emphasis towards sports. And I know that a lot of my friends' schools who have their schools in Darjeeling and Kalimpong, and they gave a lot of emphasis to sports because they themselves are so much interested in sports. So that is how I would just, sum up this entire thing.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. And I think, unfortunately, I have also experienced, I have seen many schools when I also get invited to annual sports. The school's sports program curriculum is all about the annual sports day. So they all, like, they all sum up to that, because they work for that. They really put good effort to make it a success, to make it as gorgeous as possible. But that's about it. So it is all about that. I'm not undermining, but then, or the spoon race, or maybe those kind of sports, that is about it. It's good for kids, of course, get onto the field, playing there, that's fine. But I think the seriousness of Olympic disciplines, team games, has to be there. A sports team has to be nurtured in a very professional manner, right from the school level to the college level and to the university level. Don't you agree with me?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because that's what you see, there's a calendar, and, they try to just show managements, I would say, they kind of showcase the rest of the people, because maybe it could be just a marketing kind of a ploy that, yeah, and we also do sports. So for which they have a sporting event, which is generally, held maybe once in 2 years or maybe once a year as what it is. And that's exactly what you have said is, you've just hit the nail on the head. And but they need to focus on other disciplines as well. That's another important key, which I feel that more schools should be doing this.
Very true. Okay, so with our discussion going ahead, I'll ask our friend Anurag to bring up, I think, a couple of questions, maybe from the students or maybe the parents. I'm not very sure what kind of questions we have got, but can we have a few questions to Dr. Gasper, please? Anurag?
Of course. So this woman from the academy asks, if the school is not supporting enough to pursue sports in a serious manner, what is the solution? As most of the time, students face problems with attendance and home tasks.
See, first of all, it depends as to you see, it depends on the school as to what kind of a curriculum they are following, right? So it varies. As I said, schools vary in their curriculum depending on the boards that they do. So, for example, if I'm talking about a school that is offering more of, say, the Cambridge, okay, the CIA as it's called, in these uh, in these schools, or these which offer this international, I would say, the curriculum, you have a lot of opportunities where the children can actually work upon their careers, build their careers related to their, the sports, and at the same time, they would be able to focus on the subjects that they enjoy the most. Because you have 70 subjects which is provided by the CIE or the Cambridge, in which the students can adopt any of these five subjects if they want, for their studies at the O levels or even at the A levels. So it is not mandatory that you have to select like subjects like mathematics, which are very tedious and maybe the child's not good at. At the same time, he can take English or he can subject. So it depends on the entire curriculum that he or the board, which actually provides the curriculums or the offers what kind of subjects. So that's very vital. Now, again, if you look at schools or curriculums like the ICSE board, you look at the CBSE board, so the or the Madhyamik board, these boards are totally, I would say, like, for these kinds to, because the syllabus is so vast, this is where the students do not get the time to actually enjoy their school lives, and they're unable to do their the sporting activities as the way they would like to do it, because the time consumption which is there for them to do their studies, they need a lot of time for this purpose. So this is where I am coming from. So it depends from the board to board. So this is the reason why today educations around the world are thinking that why not we move to an international board in which the children, they get an opportunity of balancing, as I was just talking to Joydeep, balancing the academics along with their sports. So this is the now the discussion has come into this levels when we go for these big seminars and these webinars that we are having. So we are doing a lot of this research work or plan as we are doing as to how this board can benefit students who are actually into sports, children who are into big time into sports. So this is the opportunities that we are working. And it's, as I say, I do sympathize with a lot of students who are in schools wherein which they are unable to get the opportunity of sports, or they are not getting the kind of opportunities or the support that is required from the school's end. That is because of the only reason that the curriculum of the schools or the board that they follow is very much, I would say, like study centric. And for that purpose, if you have a sports person, then I would suggest the parents that they need to move into schools which are more, acceptable to their children who are more to the sporty nature, so they can balance academics along with their sports. So this is what I will be able to answer you on this question. That yes.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful. So we have the next question from Namrata De, also from the academy. She asked, how important are academics in the life of a sports person?
How important is academics in the life of a
Sports
Sports
person.
person. It's a very, very important question, I think. I can tell you a story about my life after Dr. Gasper tells his experience about this. How important is education when an athlete thinks that I need to go all out for sports?
See, to be very clear, I would suggest that there are two subjects which are very important for any athlete, or you may call any sports person. One, of course, would be communication skills, which is maybe English, because English is a global language or the world language. So one has to be very well versed with that, because you need to address a media or a press, or you need to address so many purposes, and that's the time where you actually build your personality and your charisma. So for example, like if you are able to converse with the media, or in a press conference, like generally what has happened in the past, where the cricketers have been asked on the field a question, and then they are unable to understand or comprehend what the person or the commentator is asking that question, and then they gives a completely different answer to what the person has said. So it becomes a very embarrassing situation. So in these circumstances, English is, yes, you need to know this subject very well. At least English language is a very key thing. Spoken English is very, very essential for any sports personalities, I would say. And of course, yes, mathematics is also very important, because in any sports these days, you also need to have calculations. That's also there. For example, again, cricket. So you need to know how to calculate the averages and Duckworth-Lewis methods, and there's so many things which comes in. So ideally speaking, if you have these two as the two major subjects, which you should be, able to grasp at least the basics of these, or at least for mathematics, because maybe personalities may of sports may not be so good in maths, but at the same time they are very good in speaking, because these days communication skills are so important that people are now making careers out of maybe being a sports journalist or a commentator because of the skills of spoken English. So I would say that these two are the most important subjects for any sports person. I understand that a lot of teachers will be glaring at me and say, why only these two subjects, and why not physics, and why not chemistry, and the other subjects. But then if you look at it, it's basically that. And yes, maybe a little bit of general knowledge, because you see current affairs, sports persons must know, be aware of the latest records, world records which holders who are there, and the kind of subjects that there's, and especially even maybe things like physical education is another very key part if they want to take up sports, very important, because they need to know all the various areas of the kind of exercises that they should be doing, the kind of sports, the basics of sports. So these are the things I would suggest, that at least these three subjects is very essential for the sports person. And so that's how I would look at it. If I was taking up sports seriously, or my son would be taking up sports, or daughter would be taking up sports seriously, these are three things that I would highlight. Yes, Joydeep. So let's hear your story now.
I would be sounding like a devil's advocate in this, but then for Namrata also, once what happened is that I was preparing for the boards, my 10th grade board exams, and then I got to know about shooting championship. It was important, which was not coinciding, but then it was just back to back or something like that. So my preparation for the either the exams or the championship would be hampered. So I went to my parents and told, see, exams are like Durga Puja. It comes every year. So I'm not going to appear for this, ICSE exam or 10th exam this time. So I'll be doing it next time, but let me play this match. My parents looked at me, said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm serious." And they said, "Okay, go ahead." So this is the thing. This is how I like, I opted not to appear for a board exam once in my life. So uh, I think if you're really passionate, things like these happen. It's not an ideal situation, I would say. I'm not asking any students on any parents to repeat this, but at times things like these happen, and then I don't repent.
Yeah, but then the main thing is that you have to be really good at that, the activity. Maybe you went for the championship of shooting because your parents knew that you were good at shooting. So when they found that, okay, yeah, this opportunity is there, obviously they let you go. But if you were a person who was a novice and said, okay, now I'm going to go for this shooting, they'd say, no, nothing doing. You're going to sit there and study. So this is the things that if parents realize that yes, that you are good at that sport or are good in that activity, and you've actually done well for yourself, you've earned a name for yourself, they were never going to tell you no, because they realize your passion lies in that particular activity of either sports or co-curriculars. And I have seen students who actually have excelled not only in games and sports, but even other activities. For example, like quiz. I can give you an example that I was excellent in quiz. So when there was this event that happened, which clashed, it was a national event, and it clashed along with the exams, as as you had. And then we said, no, I want to go for this quiz because I'm going to win this, and it's really going to be very helpful for my career and also for my credentials. If I have to get into a college, it was a 12 standard, and it so happened we went and we won that quiz. So, and thereafter, it's you don't regret it that yes, I have done this. I've missed an exam, but at the end of the day, you still get the opportunity of doing well in both. So that's what.
Right.
Yes.
So Anurag, can we have next set of questions, please?
Of course. So the next question comes from the academy as well. So It goes, why many schools are not encouraging students in sports nowadays, and how much does this socio-economic situation affect in the same?
See, as I said, I've answered that question because you see the schools are not encouraging the children. The reason why they're not able to encourage the children is for the sole reason is that the management has to be interested first. So if the management is interested, then yes, I want my child or the students at my school to be all rounders, to be excellent in sports, to excel in this sports, like as what you have in colleges and universities in the US and China. They talk by the amount of medals that the college and the universities have achieved or have earned from the Olympics. So if people have that kind of intuition in mind, if management has an intuition in mind, they are definitely going to encourage sports. And the next thing is you need to how you encourage sports is not only just asking your children or allowing your children to participate in various tournaments and events, but also it you need to promote sports by organizing events in your own school as well as a management. So until and unless you kind of you promote sports by organizing events, encourage other children from other schools to come and participate in the competitions that you are organizing as a management. That's how you can actually build the interest and encourage children. So that's the thing which has to come from the management of the school. And the second thing is, of course, the this curriculum or the syllabus, as I was talking about. The lighter a curriculum or a syllabus is, the more opportunities the person will get, and the more even the management also will think of supporting sports because there will be time where the children can get these opportunities of working on sports. So it depends. Totally, it is depending upon the management, number one. Number two, what kind of a curriculum or what kind of board that they are offering their study programs in for the students. This is the second and most important thing today if schools need to encourage sports.
Okay, Anurag, can we have the next question, please?
Yeah, so this question is, how will sports activities in school change post-COVID days?
Yeah, good question. We've been talking about the sports activities post COVID. Now, the first thing is that we have been informed that we should have things like social distancing. So, sports events which are having a social distancing itself in its nature, for example, like games like tennis, games like table tennis, where you are a distance from one to the other, or even like sports like golf, which you can distance yourself from the opponents, which is there. Of course, contact sports is going to be difficult, but at the same time, where it comes to cricket, maybe there is possibility that we could have that sport, provided that as it is, there's a lot of social distancing happens in the game of cricket. Yeah, shooting is, of course, it's an individual sport, so you don't require too many people in it. So you have to look at the management will have to look at the kind of whether social distancing can be maintained in that sports activity or not. And if they feel that yes, sports activity, that social distancing can be followed or can be maintained in that games and sport, then we can have those particular games and sports. Because I understand some clubs already have started tennis, started that as their, in the clubs because they could maintain the social distancing in that particular activities. But again, certain racket sports like squash is not permissible because of the social distancing, which is not possible in those kind of games. So we need to look at the proximity of the kind of the social whether social distancing can be there in that particular game or not. Then we can take a call and say, yeah, that sports can be there, or we can say that sports cannot be there.
Okay,
Okay,
Anurag, can we
yeah.
have the
So
next?
So the next question is from Ashmit Chatterjee. He and it's from YouTube. He asked, many times it has been found that the timing of school and the timing of sports training clashes. How do you manage the same? And if the student is not backed up by the school for this, how will he or she proceed?
Yeah, this is also another important thing that, as I said, again, it depends on the management and how their focus is towards sports in their school. If they are, focused that yes, students should be given opportunities in sports, they should excel themselves in sports because they can make careers out of sports. And just being bookworms and just looking and focusing on education and academics, then this is a thing which is a important part. I would put it, it's very essential that the parents, they should understand which school they would like to put their children. That's important, because if they are focusing, if the parents want that the child should be more sports oriented and they want them to take up a careers in sports, they need to go and select certain schools which are schools that actually encourage sports.
But
They are
I would like
schools.
to interrupt here. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I would like to interrupt here. Uh, like if you go to a school and then you assess the results, the board results, previous board results, you get to know about the standard of the school at times, and good things about the academics also, of the school from various sources. But what about sports? You don't have a, like, quantitative measure of how the school performs in sports, or
No,
how
no, no,
good
you
they
do.
are.
No, you do. For example, I give you example. If say students, they are good, because a lot of schools, they project their full sports achievements also. For example, in our school, I give you example that our students have excelled in quite a few sporting events, or we have school teams that are already participating in those sporting events. So these are the things which it is essential that schools need to highlight those particular sporting events in maybe a prospectus or in a school magazine that gives a very good gives an insight to parents that yes, we have these sporting events and we also have these sporting facilities in our schools, which you as parents, if you're interested that to make you thinking of a career of your child, this is a platform where you are given or you can get, in which you can excel with their with you can excel your child's sporting abilities or like shooting abilities. So it's basically that you have infrastructure of school, automatically parents will realize that yeah, this school has got these infrastructures, so they are into sports and I want my child to also become into focus on sports, and accordingly I do so. So it's also the infrastructure is one. Number two is also the achievements which schools need to highlight.
I think the
That's
faculty
how.
tomorrow is very important as well, because most of the
Yeah.
time, unfortunately, I might, like, offend a few, but I've seen there are very good teachers hired by the school to take care of different subjects. But when it comes to sports, they want a generalized person who can take care of everything, who can
Mm.
clean up the sports room, who can, like, maybe clean up the garden as well and do some sports coaching as well. So
Mhm.
unfortunate, but I've seen these things in front of my eyes from very big institutions in
Mhm.
Kolkata as well. So this is definitely a major concern for me, for lack of professional coaches in schools, lack of seriousness about, as I told in earlier in the meeting, that we lack definitely the seriousness about the sport itself, because we don't want discipline sports come up, like Olympic disciplines for sports come up, but it is more about, more about the holistic approach of sports, and all summing up to the annual sports event. Again, I have to mention, unfortunately.
Yeah, I also quite quite agree on this as what you have mentioned. It is it actually is it's a how I put it, it's like a kind of a rut which has got into, like, people, where you feel that, yes, this is the sports is like this. They categorize sports as, okay, sports, I'm having sports in my school, annual sports, that's enough, I don't need anything else is required. So, absolutely, it's a total wrong intuition, which most, sometimes schools have that particular thing for the heck of having sports, and to show
Yeah, yeah.
people, yes, I'm also doing sports. So, I am doing this particular thing. So, but that is not what it's supposed to be. It is just that, uh, it's for the sake of having something, namesake, these things are happening in their school. And more so, if you find, you see that such schools, they need to organize the event also properly, because most of the times these events are not organized pretty well itself, so that creates a lot of pandemonium itself among the parents, and especially who are, and especially schools which have a lot of parents who are there. So organizing sports also is very important, and not just like, have being a one-off kind of an event, which is important. So yeah, I think this is the way I think I look at it in this way.
In continuation of what I was speaking about, the unprofessionalism of sports coaches in school, um, what is your call on the Delhi government ruling which said, okay, schools are having good infrastructure, many schools are having good infrastructure, but they don't have the faculty good enough to produce, good athletes from those nice infrastructure. The other way, just the opposite for the academies or the clubs. They don't have proper infrastructure, but they do have professional coaches. So to,
Hmm.
like, get each other benefited, what the government told is that there will be a 50-50 ratio partnership between the school and the clubs or academies, the professional sports academies I'm talking about. So what they did is that they amalgamated the professional coaches, used the school infrastructure to train the school students as well as their students to make better athletes, because they are professional coaches. And the school, at the same time, what they did is that they lend their infrastructure and got professional coaching for free from the coaches, the professional coaches. And I think, from in my opinion, I think it's an amazing uh, plan, which I think is workable, and it can be introduced in Kolkata, and it will actually prove wonders, I think. What is your call on this?
Yeah, I think it's this way, as you have a teamwork. The teamwork system actually does help, and it depends upon the management. It's
True.
absolutely today. If you see, I as a management, if I hold egos and say no, I don't want to give it to maybe JAXA to run a shooting academy in my school, or because I want it this way, I want it that way, and I don't. So it depends on the attitude. It depends on the management and the
It seems there's some connectivity issues. Are we back? I think we have lost Dr. Gasper. I think there are some internet issues which we can see that Dr. Gasper is frozen right now. His window is frozen. Anurag, if you can kindly communicate and Okay. I think we have some issues here. Mm, and as it goes, that technology nowadays is helping us a lot to communicate with each other, but at the same time, too much dependency on technology is not good. This is also for the kids who depend a lot on their mobile devices and um, while playing games and social media and everything. It is good at times, but over usage of anything is not good. So I think we have some technological issues right now. We have lost connection with Dr. Gasper, and we will have to stop the video right now, but then we'll try to connect him. And as we can get him back, we promise you to come back to you very soon. And if it is not possible, we'll try to continue this program maybe some other day, later, some other day, maybe tomorrow. But then we'll keep you informed. Don't worry about it. And if you have enjoyed, just please like and subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel of JKSA. And we'll be presenting a lot of more productive and constructive videos and webinars and meetings like this. So hopefully you enjoyed. I really enjoyed company of everybody. We got a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we couldn't answer all of them, but then definitely we will be answering them. And I promise that even if it is not possible today, we'll convey these questions to Dr. Gasper and we'll get those answers back to him and convey it to all the participants here who has put the questions in YouTube as well as our private chat box. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Um, and I will say a very good night and a bye to all. And we'll see you soon with some interesting event again. Bye.